We're going to look at bank audit. So loans and advances forms a major portion in any bank. So as an auditor, if we are asked to draft the internal control system of this particular section, what are the factors we need to keep on top of our head while drafting the internal control system? So there are 6 sections of factors. Right, first one is the basic section, the second one is securities related section. So we take securities, the bank takes securities while giving loans and advances. So those securities related factors and books of accounts. So when these transactions happen, we see that the banks maintain certain books of accounts and what are the factors that we need to touch upon this section, and loans issue related factors and financial instruments related factors and management related factors. So I have grouped them into 6 different sections. So let us go one by one. When we look at the basic factors, when a bank is giving loan or an advance to anyone, any person or any company, first thing it has to take into consideration is the credit worthiness of the borrower. So it has to clearly analyze the credit worthiness, their repayment capacity before sanctioning any advance or loan to that particular borrower. And the second one is taking appropriate authorization from the top management before sanctioning the loan in advance. And the third basic requirement is the documentation. The bank and the borrower has to appropriately execute all the documents like the agreement, demand promissory notes, the letter of hypothecation, and there are many such documents. So it has to be in place. All these documents has to be in place before making any loans or advance to the borrower. So these are the basic factors. Now securities related factor. So any bank, if you have taken a loan, you would know any bank will not be ready to give you a loan without securities. So they take either a house or a land or a vehicle as a security before they give you the loan. So the security depends totally upon the amount of loan or advance that you have applied for. So the bank has to keep in mind that it has to take a security which is higher in value while compared to the loans in advance. That scope of margin should always be allowed while giving loan against a security, because what if the security's value decline in future, and what if the bank is uncertain about getting back the money from the borrower. So such margin always puts the bank in a secured place. The second one is the possession and return of the securities. It has to be carefully done by the bank. So a person has to be responsible and they have to be given the responsibility to receive and return the securities appropriately. It should be in the custody of 2 people. It should not be under the custody of 1 person. It should be under the joint custody of 2 officers. And the next one is registration of security. Say, for example, the bank is giving a loan against life insurance. So that insurer should be aware that this person is placing it as a security. It has to be registered in the name of the bank. So such a registration requirement has to be taken into consideration. The next one is in case of goods which is in the possession of the bank. Such goods have to be checked on at the time of receipt, and also it has to be frequently inspected by a responsible person from the bank in addition to the person who is in the godown or in the stock section of that particular good. The next one related to goods that are hypothecated. So the price check should be made by the bank in respect of the hypothecated goods that are not actually in the possession of the bank. And the next one is the market value. The goods value, market value keeps changing. So the bank has to keep an eye on the market value in addition to the invoice value which has been given to them by the borrower. It has to cross check the market value to ensure that the particular good is currently having good value in the market. The next one under the securities section is the value of securities, the increase or decrease in the value of securities over a period of time. It has to be properly documented and it has to be made in the drawing power book and the daily balance book. So these entries should also be periodically checked by an officer. Okay, now the next section is books of accounts related factors. So all the books of accounts should be kept within both the drawing power and the sanctioned limit at all the times. And the books of accounts that exceed the sanctioned limit or the drawing power, or if it is against the unapproved securities or are otherwise irregular, it should be brought to the notice of the management or the head office immediately. So that is with respect to the book of accounts. Now, loan issue related factors. So the loan has been issued, the advance has been issued. What happens after that? So after it has been issued, it is important to supervise and follow up properly that such receipt of stock statement, installments, the renewal of the limits, etc., are being properly done. So if it is being issued against stock, then we need to regularly review the stock statements and also ensure the installments are being properly paid. And if there is any renewal required, that the renewals are being appropriately applied and done. And there should also be a proper check that the loans and advances are not being misutilized. Say, for example, a particular company is taking a loan for importing a machinery. So there has to be a proper check in place to ensure that the loan has actually been put into use to purchase a machinery and not for any other purpose. That's very essential. The next section is financial instruments related factors. When we say financial instruments, the banks deal with several financial instruments like bill of exchange. It also deals with letter of credit, bank guarantees, and other loans and advances. So when it comes to bank guarantees, it has to be ensured that they are properly worded and recorded in the register of the bank. They should be promptly renewed on the due dates. The proper follow-up should be made for overdue bills of exchange as well. The classification of the advances. Now, when it comes to advances, they have to be properly classified as per the RBI guidelines. Now, the next one is management related factors. Now, we're going to talk about three different managements. One is the top management, another one is the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. The third one is the RBI. So, what does the RBI talk about with respect to the loans and advances? They basically give a guideline as to how these loans and advances have to be classified. And the second one, what do we have to do with the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation? So we have to submit the claims to them on time. So there is another Credit Guarantee Corporation which is called the Exports and Credit Guarantee Corporation. So to them as well, the claims will be submitted and it has to be done on time. And the third one is about the top management, the controller, the head office. So when there is any exceeded limit of the delegated powers, I mean when the powers are when there is an power which has been excessively delegated, the instance has to be promptly reported to the head office by the branch, and it should be confirmed and ratified by the required level as soon as possible. So hope this section helped you to understand what are the factors which has to be taken into consideration while the internal control system is drafted for loans and advances within a banking scenario.